Massive vote dump overnight. Latest on the battlegrounds, how Trump can still win, and why this should not have even been close. This is Steve Elliott with a very important VIP briefing for our Grassfire team members. If you're a VIP, thank you so much. If not, please become a VIP today and help us at this critical time in our nation's history. It's Election Day +1, and we need to get right to it. If you, like me, you stayed up late and you may have gone to bed seeing a map that looked something like this, showing battleground states of Nevada, Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia, all up in the air. In fact, the president had significant leads in many of these states. In Georgia, over 100,000, almost 200,000 votes. In Pennsylvania, 800,000 vote lead. Similar 100,000 vote lead in Michigan. A significant lead in Wisconsin, and had a lead very late in the game in North Carolina. And if you listened closely to I listened to several media outlets. It was very clear at 1:30 a.m. Nothing else is going to happen tonight. They're stopping counting the votes. In fact, that's what we were told, which is very unusual. They're going to stop counting the votes. That should have raised the alarm right there, that we're going to stop counting the votes. This is a country of 350 million people in which Democrats spent $100 million just to try to defeat Mitch McConnell. And we can't count the votes on the evening of the election? This was all planned. Let's be clear. This was all planned. But we were told they're going to count, nothing else can happen in the morning, so you can go to sleep. So we all went to sleep. Sometime around 4 in the morning, something happened until you woke up this morning to a different map. All of a sudden, Wisconsin and Michigan had turned to Biden, and it was a vote dump. Michigan reported about 138,000 ballots were reported overnight, and we were led to believe that nothing else was going to happen. About 40,000 more ballots in precincts than would be expected based on the amount of votes that had been coming in other precincts. In areas this is the key point, in areas that should have split 70-30, it split 133,000 for Biden to 5,000 for President Trump. It's a statistical impossibility. It does not happen. Basically, one analyst said they waited to see what they needed and then they pushed those votes. This is what happened in Michigan last night. This is what happened in Wisconsin last night. And this is what is happening right now in Pennsylvania, where the president has a 500,000 vote lead, as I write, and they're going to whittle it down and use their 8 days to get this down to where they, if necessary, will declare Biden the winner of North Carolina. I can tell you it's happened here in Virginia, where most of the night after Fox News declared Biden the winner with 1% immediately at 7 o'clock, other reporting outlets pulled back their assessment that Biden had won Virginia because Trump was doing very strongly, which is what happened all across the country. The president was winning the late vote, the late walk-in vote, and the day of vote. And in any state where they were seeing this happen, in Florida, all the initial data dump was all the early votes, and then the president just slowly built a lead where he won by 3%. And this was happening all across the country. And it looked like a possibility of a red wave was going to happen. Or at least the president was going to hold all the states that he won in 2016. And then overnight, a huge data dump. Out of 138,000 ballots dump in Michigan, 133,000 go for Joe Biden, a statistical impossibility. Here in Virginia, the same thing happened. In my area of Hampton Roads, I can tell you the towns which showed that were red cities all of a sudden, Virginia Beach, Chesapeake, Suffolk, these are large cities in southeastern Virginia. Even Portsmouth, which is a traditionally Democrat town, had a very significant percentage of Republicans. What happened? They held back reporting the Democrat precincts until they knew what vote they needed. I'm telling you, this is what happened all across the country. So overnight, we have a huge data dump. And now we wake up, and after Joe Biden said we got to count all the votes, at 4 a.m. they counted the votes. So what's going to happen today at 5 p.m.? Joe Biden's going to declare victory. after for months they told us that Trump was going to declare victory. Now Joe Biden's going to get out and declare victory today. So here's the remaining technical battleground states. Arizona, it's a tough hill to climb. Georgia, a must-win for Trump. Michigan, still too close. Nevada, still too close. North Carolina, best guess is Trump. Pennsylvania, they're going to steal it, but it should go to Trump. In Wisconsin, it should have gone to Trump, but they stole that already for Biden. Let's look at, based on most recent counts, Trump would need to win 60% of the remaining votes in Arizona to win Arizona. Still a possibility because Maricopa County hasn't come in. The day of votes and the late votes have not come in, and those are going to go for Trump. In Georgia, the president only needs to win 37%. In Michigan, it's about half. Nevada, about half. North Carolina, 36%. Pennsylvania, just 32%. Wisconsin needs 60% of the remaining votes. These are all still possibilities, but not if the Democrats are allowed to do data dumps like they did at 4 a.m. and literally steal the election. So how does Trump win? Assuming that Michigan and Wisconsin are lost, which is a very real possibility, Trump has to win Pennsylvania, but there is a path. He has to win Pennsylvania and either Arizona or Nevada. So it's still possible. If he loses Pennsylvania, then he would have to go back and win Michigan in either Arizona or Nevada, or win Wisconsin and Arizona and Nevada. Steve Bannon called this a day that will live in infamy. And it's a day that we got to stay up on this. Let me encourage you, the best thing you can do is go to Grassfire and bookmark this page we made, latest in the remaining battleground states. We're going to be updating this all day. We've got links to conservative video that's out there and the latest data. Go ahead and take a look at that page. It's very, very important that you get the latest information on the polls. But how do we get here? How do we get to this cliff? To be honest, this election should not have been that close. We were told that President Trump was down 11 points in Wisconsin alone. 6, 7, 8 points nationally. For months, this is the results. Down in Florida, down in Georgia, down in all the battleground states, and huge down nationwide. And what do we wake up today and find out that? The national election, the national popular vote is going to actually be pretty close. And the president was actually up in the battleground states, as Grassfire reported to you yesterday, and has been reporting to you for weeks, relying on the pollsters who were correct, namely Trafalgar and also Rasmussen, who were correct in 2016. The polls that we showed you were the ones which turned out to be almost spot on, certainly within the margin of error. How did we get here? We allowed the liberal media to control the dialogue once again, with months of lying polls and lying stories and lying narratives. Now, you and I, we saw through that because we work together, we're independent, we think through things. Organizations like Grassfire help you get real information. But sadly, 50.1% of the American people are blindly following the liberal media. It's just what's happening. Secondly, first, the media. Secondly, the lords of Silicon Valley have pumped hundreds of millions of dollars into manipulating this election. And they seem to have just barely, perhaps just barely succeeded, or certainly have created this environment of chaos, which is going to make it very difficult for President Trump to win as he rightfully should win. The lords of Silicon Valley have done this. They have blocked conservative thought openly on the internet for days and weeks leading up to this election. Even today, the president's tweets are being censored, restricted, and blocked by Twitter. And we've allowed this to happen without abandoning them, without calling for their heads politically, without demanding action take place. The third thing that happened is the COVID shutdown. It brought us to this cliff. If Joe Biden wins, it's because of the COVID shutdown. Entirely. Before the COVID shutdown, Americans were polled, and 61% of Americans said their lives were better off today than 4 years ago. No president had even gone into a re-election campaign with over 50%. President Trump would have steamrolled to a re-election. But the shutdown happened, and we allowed it to happen. I'm telling you, if you sat there and let your church be closed, if you let businesses be closed in your community, if you let your kids' schools be closed without putting up a fuss, without resisting, then you are part of the problem. If you let the narrative go forward. I can tell you, when this first happened in March and April, Grassfire strongly came out against this. We said from the beginning, this was the same as a pandemic flu. And you know what? Now the infection fatality rate is 0.1 to 0.2%, which is a pandemic flu. We were told by our own team members, many of us, that we were crazy. We allowed the fear-demic to take over our lives and allowed a massive government shutdown to take place that was unconstitutional and uncalled for. And because of that, the nation has been gripped in fear for the past 7 months. And it may prove to be too big of a hill for the president to overcome. And now we are in trouble on the edge of a cliff. But it's not time to give up this fight. It's time to make some noise. So first of all, get all the information you can. Go to Grassfire, bookmark that page I mentioned. Call your congressman today. Ring their phones, 202-224-3121, and tell them how outraged you are that this election, with a data dump last night, be specific about the data dump in Michigan and Wisconsin last night, and how the election is being stolen, and demand action. We'll have more action items for you at Grassfire, but it's time to get engaged and not pull back. We need to continue to fight. The very future of our republic is hanging in the balance. Thank you for listening. This is Steve Elliott with Grassfire.